All right, everybody, welcome to the IAG Thursday Thing, this thing that we do every Thursday where we hang out, talk about maybe this week's news or what's going on or some random topic. And sometimes I get the pleasure of talking to some really, really cool people from different areas of the country. And most of them are OG Subaru peeps. And that's always a good time for me. I can't believe I get paid to do this sometimes. Today, I've been trying to get this guy on the show for a very long time, and I managed to get him to carve out an hour for us. We have Mr. Paul Lung from Yimi Sport out in California, based out of basically LA. And we're going to chat about, some of the history of Yimi, maybe some issues with dealing with tuning in California, maybe dispel some myths. And, who knows where this will go, but I'll be damned if we're not going to at least talk about a little time attack, so it'll be a good time. Paul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Dewey. How you been, man?
I'm solid, man. Last week, it was rough. I had to cancel last week's show because I couldn't function.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's been going around. I was sick for a couple of weeks as well, too. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody gets a cold, of course. The world as we know it now, after COVID and stuff, people get a little oversensitive about that sort of thing, too.
Yeah. I tried to suffer through it because I'm like, it's just cold or whatever the hell I had. I don't even know what it was. One of those nights I had a fever, but it went for like 4 days. And then Friday, I was like, you know what? I got to call it. So I left like 2 hours early from work and went up to bed. And I went to bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, and woke up at 1 p.m. the next day. And I finally felt okay. It was like a week of just awful, and then just slept a whole bunch and felt great.
Okay, well, hey, good for you. I do not think I could ever do that, no matter how friggin' sick I am. I go to sleep at the same time every day, pop up out of bed at the same time. That's part of being an old man. I mean, it is what it is.
Man, I'm getting up there. I'm starting to fart dust, but I love me some sleep. So, how's life, man? We started a hair late. You were still tuning. You're a man of many hats.
And I apologize to you and
no, you're fine. You're fine. We're all in here just hanging out, having a good time anyway. And I mean, again, this is loose. So, you mind telling us what you were playing with? What are you tuning? What are you working on?
Today was a super basic car. It was just basically a quote unquote stage 2 2012 STI. Just a
cool
turbo back, intake, solenoid, basic stuff. So super easy car. So busted that one out.
Sick. So you, like I said, you're a man of many hats. You, I know you're at a lot of the shows. I wouldn't call you the front end guy, but you're definitely kind of the face of Yimi. And then
that's true to an extent. I mean, any kind of small business where the owner, it gets a little owner centric at times, as much as I try to have my people do as much as they possibly can to help our customers. I mean, yes, I'm here, but we have great front office people as well, too.
I don't want to take anything away. I've been that guy. Okay. So don't take anything away. Those guys work their ass off.
Look, let's put it this way, though. I got great front end people, so when people call over here and they need to make an appointment, guess what? That's what they're there for. I mean, I'd love to be able to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Me, and so I got to be able to do the things that I can do and let other people put them in positions to do the things that they can do. But I mean, basically, obviously, I'm the engine management calibrator tuner. Do most of the custom fabrication work. Although I've trained a couple of my techs now to get a lot more fluent with that as well too. It's primarily my functions, and obviously the guy, answering questions and helping guide people along and with their cool Subaru builds.
Nice. So is that it? I would say the majority of what you guys are still doing is Subaru. Then, have you guys picked up any other platforms? Start playing around with it?
I mean, to be perfectly candid, when we moved to our new facility about 6 years ago, it's a little higher line facility. The optics are a little bit better and stuff than the old shop. The old shop was a little gritty, but functional. And the goal at the time was maybe to start transitioning into some of the higher line cars. Get into some of the Euro stuff. Yep. But to be perfectly honest, we've been so continuously busy with Subaru work that I haven't even needed to diversify or even had the time to diversify, because then it's about finding technicians, who are
Yeah.
experienced with other platforms. Because I'm not going to, bring in guys with like, brand new GT3s and, unleash my guys on them, who I'm sure could learn, but
Yeah.
that's not fair to the customer. I'm not learning on somebody's
Yeah.
car here.
And then if
So,
you're out hiring people, you don't know what you're picking up. You don't know what this
oh,
these
that's
people
the
are.
daily struggle. That's the daily struggle, no matter what. I mean, I've got a great core of technicians and other people here that help our customers out in different ways. But yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge, finding the right people and making sure people work great as a team. I mean, that's a daily struggle in any business. I mean, let alone automotive.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's rough. So how long has Yimi been open? And I gotta before we start anything, where'd the name come from? Like, what's
So it has nothing to do with me. So I did not start this company.
okay?
It was started by a gentleman whose name was Paul Yim, and he just
Enough
decided to
said.
extend his name, and there it is. And I actually worked with him. I was kind of not per se a day oneer, but pretty goddamn close. I actually met
Yeah.
him. There was like a weekly car meet at a local In-N-Out Burger, and I'd just gotten my '05 Legacy GT. This is back in end of '04, '05.
Okay.
And we were talking, had common interests and stuff. And then he mentioned he was opening a shop up. So literally, I'd go hang out at the shop when he first opened. And this is back in, I believe, '06. And then it started. I had a date. I had another job. I was doing some install work on parts that I was selling online, legacy parts, out of my garage at home. And basically, I started hanging out with him, and we kind of struck a deal where, hey, I'd go in there. I'd left my other job at this point, and I'd go in there. I would help wrench on cars over there, for his customers, and then he would allow me to basically bring my customers in there that I was, installing parts on, and do it at a shop, which obviously is a whole lot more legit than doing the shit out of your garage. So
Yeah.
we kind of had that labor trade type of agreement, and then it kind of came on that it came together where he hired me and I started tuning, and the rest, as they kind of say, is history. So I took over the company. Took over the company back in 2015. So I'd worked with him for probably about a little bit over 8 years or so, and I ended up buying him out, and here we are today.
So one of my questions I was going to get into, and you blasted right over that. What ended up getting you into tuning? Was it just kind of a necessity that the shop needed? So you're like, I think I want to learn this skill, or was it something you were dabbling with, and then you decided to start? Most tuners that I've talked to, it's always been some combination of either I kind of had to do it because I didn't have anybody around me, or like my community in the area needed it, or it was I was dabbling around with it and then started kind of messing with some other people's cars, and then it just snowballed into this thing, and now that's what I do for a living.
I would say that's for me, that's a big kind of. So
Yeah.
I started around messing around with my own car because that's generally how most people start doing this sort of thing.
Sure.
And at the time, the shop that at Yimi Sport was I wasn't the tuner there. We didn't actually have an in-house tuner, so we had one gentleman. His name's Anthony. He actually works for a very high-end European shop now, and as a calibrator over there. He was a college student at the time, and he'd come in on the weekends, when he was out of school, and he would come in and tune cars as needed there. And then also we had Tim Bailey from Cobb Tuning. He's the director of pro tuning at Cobb, or probably has a higher title now. But we all know him well, and he was actually not with Cobb yet at that time. Cobb actually, pro tuning was just starting to be a thing in '06 at that point. And he was, working his other job. He's, I believe, a biochemical PhD, and he was tuning cars on the side. He was travel tuning. So we were one of his stops. He would come in roughly about once a month or so. We'd group together, several cars, 5, 10 cars, whatever it was. And then he would tune those cars. And so the funny thing for me is that at the time, Tim didn't like to actually sit in the driver's seat and tune the car. He liked to sit in the passenger seat and have somebody else drive. So I was the person that got roped into strapping the cars down, hopping in, and then driving the car for him while he was actually tuning. And so if he ever hears this, I'll call it a podcast because I'm an old guy, I don't even know what to call it now. Well, or this
It's kind of what it is.
Kind of sort of what it is. And he'll blanch at this because I've always credited him as kind of being my mentor and somebody who taught me the ropes. And the thing is that I've always told a lot of people that tuning, at least once you understand the basic concepts, is a lot of X's and O's, and it's some of it's formulaic, and a lot of it, then there is some art, especially to the more complex cars, but the basics are easy to understand. if everything in the car works correctly. So the problem is that a lot of guys starting off, they assume everything's right, and then they're just doing what they think they need to do to manipulate values and try and get the car to make power and be smooth and consistent and such. But they don't necessarily know, hey, is there something wrong with this car? Has it got a tiny little boost leak? Is this one solenoid not actuating correctly? Is, mass airflow response not what it should be? Is O2 response not what it should be? Variable cam not working quite right. And so the thing is that sort of thing comes from a lot of experience, having done it a bunch of times. And I think that, working with Tim and just literally just watching him, and we would talk in the car, obviously, as he's tuning, really, really helped me to spot some of these things where you see these telltale signs, and instead of just launching into the tune and keep on going, even though something's not right and not really knowing it, I got a huge volume of experience without actually me being behind the keyboard to see how he was identifying these faults, what we had to do to fix them, not just tuning around problems and making sure everything was actually 100% before we kept on launching forward. And he was obviously, with his scientific background, he was very, very methodical, very, very, hey, you do this first, then you do this, then you do this. And, I really got to, it really, really shallowed out my learning curve. So instead of really just being there experimenting on people's cars, for lack of a better way of putting it, I got to see, how do you do it right? Multiple times. And so, Tim, if you ever hear this, man, thank you. It's not something I ever expected at the time, but, it's led to, a good career and a fun career for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome having a mentor like that. I mean, you couldn't have somebody better. And a lot of that's really what you want out of a tuner, is somebody to have that kind of almost scientific approach to it. You know what I mean? And if something isn't right, that's when they go, okay, this needs to be right, or the end results. It's just like anytime you're working with data, garbage in, garbage out. And if you're starting with a bad base, you're gonna have bad results. And I think there was a dark period where almost anybody could tune an access port, and so you ended up with a lot of these kind of like back.
Yeah, the pro tuners.
Well, they weren't even pro tuners. They were, bro tuna. Oh, bro tuna. Yeah, bro tuna. Yes, bro tuna was really bad for a while. Thankfully, Cobb really locked that down, and open source kind of pretty much went away, or at least fell out of popularity.
Yeah, that was the whole ATR, the Access Tuner race, and how it was, intended for the end user to be able to, work on their own car, but was pretty heavily abused by a lot of people.
Man, that made a lot of people angry. And then I tell you what, there was like probably 2-3 months that people were pissed off about that. And then you could immediately see it from a shop standpoint. Cars blew up a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so you guys, you in particular, what got you into cars personally? Let's start with that. What got you kind of into cars? What drew you into that? And then we kind of got an idea of how it turned into more of a career for you, but what got you into cars?
I mean, I got, like all little boys, kind of obsessed with mechanical things. And then I like to tinker. I like to use my hands. So it's not like I have no formal automotive training. I have no formal computer or computer engineering training or, anything like that. I mean, I was a political science and economics major in college. I thought I was going to be a friggin' lawyer. So, it's one of those things where you start messing around with it and, you enjoy it. It's one of those things where, actually, this is another story I've told a million times, so people who actually know me would have heard this one before. But, before, when I came on to Yimi Sport and I started working there a little bit more, I had been working a job in sales, and it was one where the company was kind of spiraling. Owners having some personal problems and that sort of thing like that. And I knew I didn't want to be the last rat off the sinking ship. And so I looked at myself and I'm like, look, I enjoyed this. I mean, I'm good. I was good at my old job, but I wanted to go and do something that I personally enjoyed. And, at the time, I was like thinking to myself, okay, there's 3 things I personally really enjoy. I enjoy cars, tinkering with them, driving them. Who doesn't like a fast car? Well, I mean, I guess the Prius tree huggers don't, but, who likes fast cars? I like to play golf, and I love food, and I'm a good home cook. So at the time, I was like, okay, I want to do something that aligns with the things that I'm passionate about. And then, really, at that point, as they say, if you do something that you love, you never have to work a day the rest of your life. So kind of looked at those three options, and family had previously been in the restaurant business before. I know how hard it is, and it's not something I want to do, because at that time I just got married. I was thinking of starting a family. I'm like, dude, I don't even want to try and get in the restaurant business and work like the bazillions of hours and weekends and everything that entails. So then thought about golf. Look at golf. Okay, I like the game. I got no goddamn natural talent whatsoever. So that kind of takes that one right off of there, right there. So I left cars, and it wasn't a process elimination thing, but it was just the logical thing. And so, like I said, some of the salesy things, we're all selling a few parts online, and the wanting to tinker. So, hey man, yeah, you bought this part for me. You want me to install that for you if you're local? Sure, yeah, okay, I'll do that for you. And like I said, it just kind of snowballs from there. But yeah, just the want to tinker, and that's kind of like the whole tuning thing. And then, I learned to fabricate and weld and stuff as well too. And that's just one of those things when you want to tinker and you can't just buy something and it's like that's what you want, then you want to try and make it. And so, being able to, I actually think that, people's like, oh, isn't it so cool being a tuner, being able to do all that stuff? Actually, to me, when I learned to fabricate and weld and stuff, I thought that was cooler, because literally I could think of something I wanted to make, and given limitations with tools and, whatnot, I could make most of the stuff I wanted to make. And really, it's kind of an art thing. It's kind of a little liberating. It's fun. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? I mean, for us, whether we do it professionally or, you're one of our customers or just some guy who's tinkering in his garage, man, it's fun. Like if it's
that's what it should be. In the end, this is all supposed to be fun and a hobby, and I think sometimes we tend to forget that. I do believe money can corrupt things. You know what I mean? And sometimes once you get a little successful at something, like your goals tend to change a little bit, and like it can corrupt kind of what you love. But in the end, you kind of got to step back and go, look, this is supposed to be a good time. Like, or I wouldn't be doing this. Like, there's so many other things I could be doing with my life that'd be making more money. Is the money part of it really what motivates me or whatever? Or is this supposed to be fun? And
I got to make a living. I mean, so
sure, that's by all means.
I've never had any of my decisions in what I do here or how I operate the business with money as the number one goal. To me, it's always been, how do I best take care of the customer?
Yep.
And the money will take care of itself.
Exactly. And that's super awesome to hear that, because that's, I sometimes I've got to have that conversation with myself. Sometimes I got to have that conversation with some people, maybe who aren't myself, but that this is supposed to be fun, and we're supposed to be having a good time, and like, maybe we're losing sight of the goal every once in a while, but it is what it is. So you being in Southern California, when I first got into cars, it was, I played a little Gran Turismo and whatever, but when I went out to Southern California for comm school when I was in the Marine Corps, before the first movie came out, I went and got taken out to some street races out there in that area, and like saw what was going on, and like it grabbed me like nothing else, and that's why I'm here today, really. And then obviously the movie, and then all the magazines and everything, the whole import car culture thing, everything really was in SoCal. I mean, all of the performance companies were in SoCal. Most of the magazines were based out of SoCal in one way or another. Like, all of this was in Southern California, and it was the epicenter of all this insane stuff happening. And then, so when I was, after I got out of the Marine Corps and I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, this was probably 05, 06, I seriously considered moving to California. And then, there was a lot of restrictions and things coming through, but people were fighting around it, figuring it out. And, 91 octane fuel didn't seem great, but, you can, again, you guys had like tracks all over the place around there that it just, it seemed like the spot to be. Nowadays, it's unreal how, like, if you were to think about this in like 2003, like, the spot you want to be in the country is Southern California. to modify cars and have a great time, at least import based vehicles, And nowadays it's rough. Like you guys are in a tough spot. When I think of California, and most people think this way too, the general consensus is there's a lot you got to think about there. You've lived through that whole thing. Like, how have you seen, like, what does that transition feel like from you, not only being in the community, but it being a part of your job? I'm sure that's you've lived through that whole transition. I guess I don't even know where to start with that. I kind of just said the whole thing, but like, what is that? How has that been living through that? You know what I mean? And being so that's been such a major part of your life.
It has. I mean, and look, it's obviously there's been, shifts in policy from the government level that is really nationwide. I mean, the initiatives here are not necessarily part of the California initiatives. They're federal initiatives here. So, the entire industry, and I'll blame the diesel guys here, have shifted a little bit here. So that part, to me, it's not been a seismic sort of shift in terms of day and night, or even, like, I should say, overnight type of thing. It's always been a gradual sort of change with, certain, mile markers where something more significant happened along the way in terms of policy and the way that's being enforced. So, I mean, in general, for us, yeah, and you're not wrong about the whole car culture here thing. And the thing is that at the end of the day, it's the reason why, at least, a lot of people would attribute the whole Southern California car culture thing is that it's such a sprawling area. I mean, we got no public transit here. Well, okay, so, the government here will probably beg to differ that we've got great public transit. It's horseshit.
Yeah, it's shit.
It's horseshit. And the thing is that it's not really their fault. It's so friggin' spread out around here. Like, okay, so the city that I'm in, it's technically the fourth largest city in LA County, but it's, a solid 40 miles away from downtown LA. And in the middle, there's, we're talking, tens of millions of people over just this massive, massive area. And so everybody's in their car. They're not in subways. They're not in buses and stuff like that because you can't get anywhere that way. So you're in a car. So then you're sitting in traffic. But there are some nice mountain roads, canyon roads, places to open it up if you want to. But, you spend a lot of time in your car. So then at that point, you're like, hey, would I rather attempt to enjoy my time in this car a little bit more by doing some stuff to it and not just accepting what an OEM thinks is, their ideal for this particular vehicle? If you got a different idea of what you like best about your car, what you want to change about your car, and you do it, it makes it a better car for you. Like the best, one of the things I always, my customers ask me, hey, what should I do next to my car? And they're asking me that. I'm like, what would you do? I'm like, well, that's kind of irrelevant. I'm not you.
I agree.
It's one of those things where I always tell them, when you're driving your car, think about what you like least about your car while you're driving. And it could be anything. Could be power, could be brakes, could be the way it turns, could be ride quality, could be too noisy. Could be anything, right? I'm not you. So if you can tell me what you don't like about your car right now, and we can turn that weakness into a strength, then guess what? That makes your car that much better for you. And again, just tying it back to car culture, people want to enjoy their vehicles more here just out of necessity because you spend so much goddamn time sitting in your car, going places and driving long distances to get to places. And so I think that plays into the car culture part of it. Now, in terms of the way, what we're doing, what shifted, I mean, obviously back in the day, hey, look, let's put this catless downpipe on here. Let's, delete all the emission stickers and stuff like that.
You guys kind of got cracked on that a little earlier than we did, just because the states that had, state inspections and things like that, it wasn't just you guys. It was all over. And then there's other states that maybe didn't have it. So it wouldn't even call it lenient. It's just they weren't being checked. So people were being naughty, big naughty, okay, and all over the country. And at a certain point, that had to stop. And I'm kind of with you on the fact that I believe the diesel guys are the ones who really brought the wrath towards us. But again, you guys got Cali gets looked at as like the center of a lot of this, when in reality, like you said, it was a nationwide thing, and in every state that has like proper state inspections started getting like that. So I remember getting in trouble in North Carolina for having a downpipe on my Subaru. They inspected the car and I didn't have a cat on it, and that was back in 2003.
Yeah.
That was, and they were angry about that. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, it is. Look, the Clean Air Act is a thing and has been a thing, will continue to be a thing, and that is again a federal initiative. So I'm not going to say that we don't have to deal with a few more things in California than some states that really don't have state inspections of their vehicles. And look, I'm for it and for inspections in the sense, especially the states that do like the safety inspections, so that your clapped out piece of shit that's going to probably kill somebody on the road, the parts are going to fly apart.
Drive through Detroit once, and you will see exactly why these things exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's public. If you talk about public safety initiatives, yeah, those kind of inspections, 100%.
90 mile an hour in the ice, bald tires, no brakes, half the car rusted out. The term is called Detroit lean because you have a busted shock in the rear, so the thing's sunk all stupid, and you've got to like lean. Yeah, Detroit lean's a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, so our messaging to customers here, like, look, and the thing is that I'm without going too in depth.
Yeah,
we kind of have a little bit of a dichotomy with some of the street vehicles versus the real dedicated race vehicles. So some of the enforcement efforts, have obviously been targeted towards the street vehicles. And our messaging to our customers has been and always will continue to be that, look, we're going to be compliant here. And, I thank companies like Cobb right now. And I had a discussion with Adrian Spears from Cobb. And not too long ago, just wanted some feedback on how effective the whole process of Cobb going through and the trouble and the expense of getting EO numbers for all their products, for a lot of their products that they're going to try and sell nationwide here, and how helpful that it is. That helpful to me, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's helpful because now
it's massively helpful for you. It's incredible. Like, I got to be real. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I can't sell our AOS in California, but Cobb went through. And through the process of getting the EO tag and everything on the AOS, we make for them. It's our AOS, but Cobb got the tag for it. So if you want an IAG AOS in California and it be 100% legal, you buy the Cobb one. And I'm sure you sell the crap out of that, as you should. It makes all the sense in the world.
The funny thing is, I've had customers come in here with IAG AOSs installed. They get popped, because they get pulled over or get, fail smog or whatnot, and literally have me switch it out for a Cobb AOS. It's pretty easy. I leave all the lines in place, take the can out, stick the new can in there, and put the sticker on the car.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. So, I mean, yeah. But, the crazy thing is that people thought it was like the apocalypse, when green speed came down and, some of these enhanced enforcement efforts from the federal government and California came down. But, I've had cars that, let's say were not so legal before. Had aftermarket catalysts on them and whatnot. And, I've been able to do a few cars now where we've taken them to completely legal configurations, upgraded turbos like a Cobb 20G, carb legal. And so been able to actually literally take a car that was non-compliant, make it compliant, and actually make more power for the customer.
Yes. And nowadays, it's how it's always been. I remember, I wasn't alive for this, but, hearing these old timers talk about when they started putting cats on cars, and you could see, like, the malaise era of cars and the muscle cars when they had to start putting catalytic converters on them. They went from making 400 horsepower to 150. But now look what these cars are making.
Absolutely. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, you make like 900 horsepower through, you can get a Hellcat, or a Demon or something, and they're fully emissions legal and making like 900. So
yeah, a lot of people want to look back in the muscle car days, the 60s as being the golden age. Man, that is bullshit. We are currently, at least for internal combustion engines, before electric takes over everything here, I think right now it's a staggering technological and engineering achievement for the OEs. That we have cars that are incredibly efficient, incredibly powerful, clean enough that if you're trying to kill yourself by closing the garage door and running your car, you couldn't even do it. Because they're so
insane. Yeah.
And I mean, it's crazy how efficient and how good these cars are now. I mean, you look at who would have thought that you would have, like full-size SUVs that weigh over 5,000 pounds being adequately propelled down the road by a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. that you'd have,
That,
other cars with like 1 point something liter motors and mid-sized sedans like a Honda Accord or something like that can certainly get out of its own way with a 1.5 liter motor. I mean, you go back 10 years ago, shit was unimaginable. It was like, this is a pie in the sky. There's no way
we're putting 3.5 liter V6s in everything. Now we're putting 1.5 liter turbo 4 cylinders in, or 3 cylinders.
Full-size trucks, like you look at the new Chevy Silverados, was like a 2.7 liter turbo 4. People are buying them. Fuck thing makes over 400 foot-pounds of torque.
It's insane.
So like a 1,000-pound trailer without this thing nading itself. I mean, it's awesome.
You brought up race cars.
Yep.
You said something. Well, I'm sure you're still working on some race cars, and how can you not? You know what I mean? Race cars are a riot. One very notable race car that you worked on, and I'd be an asshole if I didn't talk about this, was Mr. Mark Jager's race car. And I'm not sure exactly of the involvement of you guys with him. I just know that the whole side of that car said Yimi Sport. And that was... a lot of us drew a lot of inspiration from that car, especially back in its day. I've even personally drawn parts from that car. I run his brakes, his rear, his axles, and his rear subframer all in my car.
I always wondered when we retired that car, or when Mark retired that car, and it was parted out and stuff. I've always wondered where some of the parts ended up, because there's a lot of cool parts on that car. Some were so specific that it'd be really difficult to use them on another car without quite a bit of work. Yep. But I mean, that was an interesting car. So I mean, just the background on that and the whole time attack aspect was it. Mark, I had tuned a car for him. He was just running track days. It was a 06 STI that he bought lightly used, a couple of years used or something like that. I tuned it for him. And then, he ran some track days for a couple of years or whatever it was. He came back and said, hey, I want to run time attack. Would you guys help me out with some stuff? And so I think, we did some more bolt-ons for him, and I tuned his car, put some livery on it. And at the time, I'm like, sure, why not? I'll give you a free tune, that sort of thing like that. And honestly, I can't even remember what year this was now. It was probably... I don't know, like maybe 2010, 2011, something like that. Yeah, that's
kind of, I'm thinking probably right around that ballpark, because, stuff started snowballing after that fairly quickly. Yeah. Yeah,
so I want to say at the time, he had bought the car under for a few years. He was still making payments on it when he was first starting to time attack the car.
We're racing the bank's car. Yep, I've done that a few times.
Exactly. And so, it just snowballed. He saw some success, and we saw similar success there. And so, we decided to take it, a few steps further. So, he always was the owner of that vehicle. We were the title sponsor, and basically the people who built that car and evolved it over the course of the years. And it's such a funny story, because, we still have pictures of the car up in the shop, and people ask me all the time, hey, you guys still racing and stuff? And I was like, my honest answer right now is that, a little less so. I mean, at the time, I'm not quite pushing 50, but I'm pretty close to it. And I don't quite have as much energy now to work, into the wee hours of the morning, prepping a race car, every day of the week for whenever, for a bunch of time before every race, or even in between when we're trying to make improvements. I used to be able to go and work till 2, 3, 4 a.m., go home, shower, go to sleep for a few hours, come back and rinse and repeat.
Isn't it crazy that I've said this before, youth is wasted on the young, because when you can afford it, you don't have the energy to do it.
I don't. And my wife was like, dude, you got to stop doing this at some point. And it kind of came to a head with Mark, and, some of the cost of running an unlimited program and that sort of thing with, between us.
That's brutal.
It's brutal. An unlimited program is fucking brutal to try and, absorb everything.
And to be honest, Street Modified, which is what I run now, isn't far off of that, because development has just got to that point.
Well, now, yeah. I mean, it used to be in the early days, and here we are sounding like old farts again here.
We are old farts.
A street class car was, maybe a little extreme to daily drive on the street, but could conceivably do it. Now, crazy. No way. I mean,
it's everything is a full race car, and that's like Grid Life is. We kind of borrowed from that old Redline rule set the same way GTA did, but Street and Street Mod, very similar setups. But we have a class that's even under. I don't want to call it under. The sandbox is smaller than Street Mod, called Street, and it's limited aero limited tire, limited modification stuff. And most of those cars are you really wouldn't want to take those. You wouldn't want to use that on the street.
You might drive it to Cars and Coffee or something like that. You know, once a month, something like that. But it ain't a car that you want to sit in traffic and go to work in every day.
Yep. Yeah. That's it's gotten wild, man. The development of that stuff has been nuts. So, on a personal note, did you have anything to do with putting the brakes on that car?
Personally, probably not.
Damn it!
Why?
So, long story short, I've got this AP kit on Boogie, and it's the kit's fine. The problem is Stillen built that kit. Right. And AP Essex, who basically has the right to AP here in the States, Stillen hasn't touched AP in a while, built that kit, and it uses a really goofy rotor and a goofy rotor ring. And finding any form of replacement of a rotor ring it's impossible. And I've destroyed all of them that I had. So I'm up shit creek right now. So I'm just trying to figure it out. It was a prayer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was one where I can't even remember how we came to using those. I mean, you know, we got to a point, I think probably during the end of the street class days, that the brakes were starting, the stock Brembos were getting not to be enough, even with a good pad in it. Like we were just nuking pads. We were trying all different kinds of pads and we were nuking pads. And so then at that point, when we knew we were going up at the time to Redline Modified GTA Limited, that I think that's when we put the brakes on it. I mean, this is again a few years ago now, but I want to say we talked to some folks when we were at the SEMA show that were with Stillen, and they were like, "Oh, you should get these AP racing brakes." We're like, "Okay, all right, let's try these out." And so
it seems like a great idea. And now,
it's a great idea, you know. It's like, you know, the old Rotora stuff. You know, when Rotora went out, and it's like,
man, you can't call it Rotora. You'll get yelled at. Have you ever called them? If you don't call it Rotor A, they get mad at you.
Oh, really?
It's spelled Rotora. It's you're in California with them, and you call it Rotora. But if you talk to them, if you don't say Rotor A, they get pissed.
Wow. Hey, man, you know what? I just learned something new today.
I remember the first time I had to get a hold of them. It was from like some dude needed rotors for like an SRT4 back when I was working at TH Motorsports back in the day, and so I ended up having to call them. And yeah, it was weird. That was a whole strange situation. Like she like stopped me with what I was saying. She's like, "It's Rotor A," and I'm like, "Okay." I mean, don't ever say Rotora again.
If you spelled their name ROTOR-A or some shit like that, then I get it.
I'm with you. I'm just telling you, it's ma'am.
You saved me embarrassment and stuff in the future here if I ever have to communicate with them.
Oh man, good times.
Yeah,
so
just going back to the whole time attack thing and the evolution of the car. I mean, it literally started as, you know, initially was a stock gas car with some like bolt-on suspension parts, and you know, I think our first turbo on that car upgrade ever was a BorgWarner EFR 6258, the little guy. And we actually did an entire season, won every single event. This was Redline days. On a stock motor in that little ass turbo, making like, you know, 420 or something like that on the 85. It was funny days. And I not to take it like I'm gloating, but we were lapping the field so hard back in the day that Redline at the time, you got 2 time attack sessions. There were multiple other sessions that you could run out just to set up the car and practice and whatnot. But there's only 2 sessions that actually counted for a time. And we basically, every time we take it out, you know, do our little shakedown and stuff, any little minor adjustments in the first session of the day that didn't count, run the time attack session, you know, be lapping the field so much or didn't feel like there was any kind of a threat, put it on the trailer and drink beer for the rest of the day. And, you know, we did that for literally an entire season. Then built the motor up, put a bigger EFR on it, the 7163, a couple more custom parts, like the old front, like a different front mount. And, you know, that's why I think we went to the 2.5i manifold and, you know, other stuff that we were just putting together. And this was literally all shit that I didn't own the company at the time. I was just working for the company, but you know, I kind of got deep into it and had, you know, it was really satisfying and I was learning a lot as well, too. So then, you know, I was down to be, you know, there at 2:00 in the morning, you know, working on the car, building parts of the car and stuff like that. And it kept on going and kept on going for years and years. But I mean, the early days, I will say, were a shit ton of fun. It got a lot more stressful and stuff as it went. But the driving, man, the quality of the driving and stuff back then was outstanding, just as it is today. It's just that we were pushing it a little bit more than most people from the car end of things, and being, I'm not going to say innovative. That's probably like patting myself on the back way too fucking hard. But we were doing some things that hadn't necessarily.
I think you guys were definitely doing some stuff that was ahead of its time for sure. Especially the power levels you guys were trying to operate that unlimited car at. You guys were you were definitely swinging for the fences. Let's put it that way.
The funny thing is that we never actually had ever intended that car to go to unlimited. It was one of those things where GTA we're going from street class after doing really, really well in street class for many, many years, for several years at least. And we wanted to go to limited in GTA. And we had already, we were working with our friend Rami, who is now literally an aerodynamicist for Williams F1 team. So, we had smart ass people that were working with us. And he had designed a whole, tunnel system and stuff like that. But it was kind of a little bit more moderate than what it ended up on the car later. But that is the year that GTA eliminated flat bottom and a lot of the underbody aero for the limited cars. And we were already balls deep into building this thing out. And so then we're like, well, fuck it. I mean, I guess what we can do.
Let's run unlimited. Go get a sequential.
Exactly. Now it's time to get a sequential. It's time to cut the car more. But there was a lot of things, and it was never optimized for unlimited, because if you're doing an unlimited build right now, I mean, you start from scratch. You don't start from a chassis that was a street class car, because there's all kinds of stuff in terms of the cage that was welded in to metal that would have absolutely been taken off an unlimited class car. If I took a chassis right now and I'm building an unlimited class car, I would not have started with the chassis the way that it sat. There's just so many things that had been, it's kind of like a house where you add on to it, you add on to it, you add on to it, but then it was still the same basic house where you should have just torn the motherfucker down and started from scratch, So
I totally get it.
But it was still, dude, I mean, it was still a lot of good times, a lot of good friends, meeting people, good people like yourself. A lot of people that I still talk to every day, even though talk to all the time right now, even though I literally we haven't hit the racetrack together in years. So I mean, that's just part of that's, you talk about car culture. That's a lot of it right there, man. You meet people you wouldn't otherwise met, make friends you wouldn't otherwise had, and and you have a good time with them. Yep,
that's really what it's all about. I'm just gonna throw this out here. I'm not trying to advertise or anything, even though I kind of am. Gridlight's got a whole West Coast series now, like full race time attack series. I'm just going to throw that out there. You want to get in on that?
I see that. I've had a few customers that were telling me they're going to be competing in that, and we should go to the rule book and figure out what we want to do and stuff.
Well, if you need help manipulating that rule book in any way, you let me know. I know how to
do such a thing.
I understand that rule book better than the most.
I look at a rule book and I'm like, oh, this was the intent of the person who wrote it. I am going to adhere to that intent.
Oh, no, it's not cheating. Nothing about that is cheating. It's called reading a damn rule book. Nothing wrong with it. You read it 3 times to see what it says. You read it 300 more times to see what it doesn't. And you do all of that.
I mean, and it's not the whole if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. It's just, hey, look.
Especially with time attack, especially these days, if you aren't playing in the gray, you're probably not going to win.
Actually, that reminds me of one, because I used to be the tech steward for Redline for a couple of years. And so I was doing tech inspections. And at the time, we'd written a rule. I'd written a rule that said, and this is when Tony from GTA and I would, talk about it to try and keep our rules aligned as closely as possible. Redline and GTA were still running concurrently. And in enthusiast class, we basically wrote a rule that said no chassis mounted front splitters. You could attach it to the bumper skin. That's fine. The intent was that, you don't have these crazy ass things that you could take, so you could take it on and off easily. You could drive to the track, and then it would limit the amount of downforce you could possibly make, because if you made the thing so fucking big, it's only attached to the bumper skin, and guess where it's going to end up? Not on your car. It'll be on the side of the track. Yeah. So I remember this one guy. I can't remember his name. I think it was a Honda. Might have been an S2K. No, I don't think so. I think it was a Civic. Actually, no, it was an S2K. God, his name escapes me. I can see his face. Anyways, he had run some rods from the body of the splitter up through the front, the bumper skin on the top right as it attaches to the grill area. and it wasn't attached to any part metal on the chassis. Put some big old washers in the top, but basically that front bumper skin sat right on top of that, more or less the core support area, which was the chassis. But in no way, shape, or form was the splitter, by any mechanical means, bolted to the chassis.
Good on
but
him.
Effectively, it was. And I'm like, I saw that. I'm like, you motherfucker. But you know what? I tip my hat to you because you read the rule book. I didn't think of that someone would do that. But yeah, he had a bigger splitter than most, and he could keep it attached to the car because of what he did. And I thought it was fucking ingenious.
And that's it. How could you be mad at that? You know what I mean? That means you need to write the rule better, is the way,
Exactly.
and
that's exactly it. That was a boy, and
he
good
wins.
on you for fucking reading between the lines.
So, Mr. D. Alex Butler in the chat is asking. He's showing pictures of Mark's car. Do you know where that chassis is nowadays? Did he end up selling the whole thing off? I know he kind of got out of it.
I haven't got confirmation, but Ken from Coherent Chassis Works, who was doing our chassis setup on the Time Attack car, and I still work with him. He actually just corner balanced in the line of race car for me, 2 nights ago. And so I was actually asking him about that because he still talks to Mark quite a bit. I haven't talked to Mark in a little while right now, but I asked him, hey, where did the chassis end up? And he said he thought this one, the racing chica, I can't remember her actual name.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about, though.
That she bought it, but then hasn't really done anything with it. But then again, that could be complete erroneous hearsay, so I have no idea. But I've always been curious to see where the chassis ended up. Because I know the parts obviously got scattered to the wind, including yourself, right?
Yeah, I got some of that. I ended up getting, so it's kind of goofy how I ended up with a bunch of this stuff. I got knuckles and stuff from Marcos. I got brakes from him. So it was like I just, a lot of the prominent Subarus at the time in GTA is where I got a lot of my parts from. They were getting on or moving out or doing whatever. So
hey man, living on.
Yep. And that's and people move on, do their own thing. Some people are married to this brand like myself, some aren't, and good on them.
Yeah. I mean, look, we had a good long run with that car, man.
Yeah,
I want to say it was through all its various permutations. I mean, I got to look back at like the dates on YouTube videos and stuff.
You weren't far off of a full decade of running that car. That was a hell of a run.
8-9 years, maybe 10. It was a long run. I mean, I don't even want to begin to count up all the hours that I spent. On that car.
That's people talk about, man, don't ever add up the money. That ain't what you don't want to add up. You said it right there. How many hours have you actually put into it? The amount of time in that car is probably terrifying.
It is terrifying. I've told this story before too, is that I want to say it was a Super Lap Battle, which now is called GTA Finals, but at Button Willow years ago, there was one event where one of the Super Lap Battles that we went there. And from the week of Super Lap Battle, the Monday I got up out of bed, go to work, worked my normal day, worked on the car after hours for 3 days, went out there for the first day, blew the motor on like the second session or something like that. Hustled it back to the shop. Put a fresh motor, rebuilt that shit, put it back in there, went back out there the next day. From when I got up Monday morning to when I laid my head down on a pillow at the glorious Motel 6 in Button Willow on Friday evening when it was all over, I'd slept 14 hours.
Yep.
And I was like, and I will tell you right now that night of sleep at Motel 6, which is right on the side of the 5 freeway, so it ain't exactly quiet.
Yep, I drove right by Button Willow, right by there. I didn't realize that was happening, but right by there was when I was on my way up to Laguna. I couldn't believe where Button Willow was. That was wild. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Nowhere, dude. Yeah. So, and that's where I can put all the tracks now, because guess what? You build a track like Laguna and people build their houses next to the track, and next thing they know, they want to close down the track because of the noise, because you're the asshole who built your house.
Oh man, don't even get me started on that shit. Holy shit. What they're trying to do with Laguna is insane. Those people are nuts.
That's for years.
I got another question about the car in the chat, and I'm kind of wondering myself.
Sure.
What is the little periscope that is on the roof?
Okay, so that was a Rami thing. That was our aero guy.
Okay.
That was actually meant to get. There was a sensor below that to gauge wind speed.
Okay, so like a differential pressure sensor kind of thing.
No, like literally, I think it was actually just for wind speed. So, obviously if
Okay,
there was anything, yeah, like the airspeed as it crossed over the top of the car. So that was something
interesting.
for his simulations or something like that. If I recall correctly, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like a little
Yeah,
bent
yeah, yeah.
93, a little bent
Yeah,
tube.
it
Yeah.
looks like a really thin periscope.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It was measuring wind speed or airspeed.
Wow. Okay. That's
Yep.
cool. Any data you can get too. And that would be the spot you'd want to get it from too. That's actually pretty cool.
That was his thoughts at the time. I mean, at the time he was an engineering student, and yeah, he did all the aero work on the car. I mean, he had the vision and he'd done the design work and whatever CFD and that sort of thing like that. And then I was charged to make it happen in real life. So we had our battles. I mean, I respect the hell out of Rami. He's a good dude. But there's a few times he was like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "That's not fucking physically possible."
Oh, for sure. And you're going to have that, especially when you're building a race car where you and whoever's building the car, people come up with ideas. There's going to be the people who want to do certain things. And then there's going to be the people who have to go, man, that ain't happening.
I mean, and look, hey, maybe now any vision that he has working on an F1 team, they can make it happen. I mean, I'm good at doing some things, but I ain't got the resources and the tooling, equipment, and everything.
He's working with different boundaries too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And one of those boundaries also is budget.
Yep.
When you're working with a Formula One budget, and you can kind of shape the car in any way you need to. Well, things change quite a bit.
Well, the funny thing is that we talk about that. That's the one cool thing about time attack, at least in the higher classes, is you literally, I mean, budget aside, or at least if budget is not an issue, you can do virtually fucking anything. I mean, you can do. That's why some of the craziest looking cars out there, at least from an aero standpoint, are all time attack cars. Most of these other race series, all that's strictly governed, and then they're really just trying to work within the margins in the rule book to try and make these little tiny incremental improvements. If we want to stick a dining room table size splitter on a car, have at it.
Yep. Yep, especially in the upper classes, you can kind of lose your mind. Cubic dollars will allow you to do just about anything you want, but it's also like cubic dollars wins.
Yeah, I mean, cubic dollars let you do cubic craziness. It works out, sometimes it doesn't, and I guess that's part of the fun of the whole process.
That's fun of the charm of time attack,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I guess, how do you see the future of yourself, Yimi? Things going on. I don't see Subaru slowing down anytime soon, but there's going to come a point where these are going to become kind of more of a niche thing, especially since the STI doesn't exist anymore. Have you been doing a bunch of the VB? How about the new the new BRZ and GT86s? Have you been doing a bunch of those too? Like where are you at these days? How are things going?
I mean, we'll work on anything Subaru, so that's not a problem.
Sure.
The thing is that, as in with most news cars, you get some people who literally roll the car off the showroom floor and straight for it to get modded. I mean, I got one customer, he literally has a problem. I mean, he buys cars and literally, every single car gets a set of T37s. Every single car is going to get this and get that. It doesn't matter what. Awesome customer, obviously. Super nice guy, too. But in terms of like some of the newer, otherwise you got newer cars that people are like, well, let me wait until I'm out of the warranty period and stuff here before I start modding it. So, if I had to say the cars that we still see the most of are going to be, honestly, VAs, VASTIs, even the GRs and stuff still. And, the GDs usually now at this point, it's going to be more. And so we do like maintenance and repair as well, too. So the GDs, yes, you have a handful of people that are still modifying. I got one guy who just finished his car from 04 STI. He's his own original owner, bone stock this entire time. And it's sat for something like 6 years. And he decided, you know what? I want to build this thing. It has some sentimental value to him. And, he put a bunch of money into it. And, we did a full street build, rehab the entire car. And it's a beautiful car now and a beautiful running car. So the crazy thing as you talk about niche, it reminds me of a conversation I had years ago with Jeff Racer from Full Race Motorsports, and this is when they were prototyping their EFR turbo kits, and they actually used our shop car, which is an 08 STI at the time, to do the prototyping. So we drove the car out there to Phoenix, left it with them while they were doing the prototyping on that turbo kit. Which, funny as we mentioned, this is sold. They've discontinued that kit, and they're actually trying to sell me the tooling for it. But anyways, I digress. I was talking to Jeff, and at the time, I was like, yeah, so what's your biggest market now? There's Subaru, get into Subaru stuff now and whatnot. And, obviously Full Race has always been, on the pointy end of things in terms of build quality and, to your pricing as well, too. I mean, it's not inexpensive parts. They're high quality American made parts. Those ain't going to be the cheapest thing. It's not going to be some, Wish, Temu, Chinesium bullshit. So his response at the time, though, as to what his biggest market was super surprising to me. He's like, Hondas. And we're not talking about like late model, like this
90s.
90s Hondas was his biggest market. When you associate that market with the dude who's buying the $500 Chinese turbo kit off of eBay. And he's like, that's 100% correct. But the thing is that there's a percentage of those guys who are serious, like actually are going to be drag racing
and
or
really serious.
They're real serious that love these cars. I'm
really excited to have this talk with you because this is exactly what I was kind of praying you were going to say.
Yeah. So he's like, there's so many of these cars. It doesn't take a big percentage of these people who are willing to be that niche to actually be a huge and viable business. Now, if you ask him the same question right now, he'll tell you not even close. I mean, he still sells some stuff for that. Ford EcoBoost trucks all the way is like their business now. Is that surprising? You're making parts for the number one powertrain of the number one selling vehicle in America. You can be a tiny ass little niche right there and have a huge customer population.
That's why we started messing around with Broncos. People wonder. That's what's keeping the lights on. But
yeah, ain't no surprise here. The off-road guys spend gazillions of dollars because I got a few customers that have Subarus, but they also have some trucks. And then they'll be like, "Hey man, can you put this on my Ranger? Can you put this on my Tacoma or whatnot?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, no problem. I'll put this lift kit on here for you." I mean, the guy, he's a good guy, and you're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do this." And the amount of money that these dudes spend on these off-road things is uneffing believable.
They don't even blink. It's crazy. But
they don't.
So kind of going back to what you were saying about the 90s Hondas, this is what I think is going to happen quickly. So 90s Hondas are kind of going through this resto mod renaissance period right now. And I truly, this is why I believe with the prices increasing on GDSTIs like crazy right now. Like, good luck finding a clean 07 STI anywhere for under 35K. It's nuts.
Absolutely. 100%.
I think we're about to hit that same thing with the performance Subaru market where you're going to get a lot of the GD chassis, and I think it's going to trickle into GRs and stuff too, where you're going to have that same renaissance of people who are like, I've always wanted to build one of these and now I have the money to do it.
Right.
Or these older chassis are good for whatever particular reason, GCs, GDs. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, I look at the GD chassis kind of like the Ford community looks at the Fox body Mustang. It's kind of our Fox body.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's kind of if you want to build a race car, it might be your best bet. It can kind of do everything. Yeah, it's got its issues, but so does a Fox body. Let's be real.
Exactly.
And it's not that they haven't built newer and better things for doing shit, aka the BRZ. But it's I have a feeling that market isn't ever going to really go away. So I don't think there's ever going to be. There's always going to be a need for, quality Subaru. I don't think it's going to get really any less than what it is right now. I don't, as things change. Yeah. And because I'm still getting nonstop phone calls for 05 STIs. I'm still helping people to this day go to top feed injectors on those cars. Like, I feel like people are starting to save them. You know what I mean? And like they're also a lot more willing to do it correctly. Like, because they see more value in that car now than they did even 10 years ago. where they're like, this car is special. And 10 years ago, it was an old ass car. You know what I mean?
Well, the Survivors that are nice right now,
Yes.
that is a special car because that is actually
I
a
agree.
relatively rare vehicle at that point. You know, the crazy thing about talking about getting old and stuff here is, in my mind, if I think of what a 10-year-old Subaru is,
Oh man, don't do this to me.
I think of a GD, you know? Dude, a 10-year-old Subaru's a fucking VA now.
Yeah.
You could... A 15
So
STI
gross.
was available in 2014. It's a friggin' 10-year-old car at this point.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Warranty has been lurking around in here the whole time.
Yes,
guys
I'm
who've been
here.
listening to this, he's been lurking in here the whole time. When I met him, he had a 15 STI. Warranty, your car is a decade. Your old car is a decade old now. He's a big BRZ guy now, but it kills me. And 10 years ago, I thought a 10-year-old car. I mean, that was a hatch. You know what I mean? What's really crazy to me is even in my brain now, I think of like, what was a 10-year-old car when I first started messing around with cars? You know, bug eyes, things like that. When I first started messing around with them when they were new, a 10-year-old car was a hatch Civic, a DSM, like a first-gen DSM. Like, oh my God.
Yep.
I feel like that's like it doesn't seem that old, but when we weren't looking, our favorite cars became old school.
Yeah. Like I said, though, I mean, honestly, if I start looking at the cars that I've got some of the bigger builds for right now, I've got a couple GCs in here right now that one guy is taking. It was just WRX swap, like an 04, 05 WRX swap.
Sure.
And actually, we ordered pretty much the whole friggin' IAG catalog and stuff for him. And he's getting a bunch of stuff put on that car. And that's a little bit bigger build there. Just got another GC in that's not swapped yet. And so we're swapping that one. But yeah, I mean, the newer cars is more of the day-to-day stuff. But, fun day-to-day stuff like, hey, look, I'm going to do a full Cobb Stage 2, next-gen Stage 2 package on it. Turn that around a day or so, tune it, send the customer off with it to him. It's a brand new car at that point. It's a whole other different car.
I'm sure you're doing like a heap of like VA, like the IAG 600 blocks. Like you do a bunch of those things for the VA WRXs. You know, those things are... It's a great replacement, whatever. But like, I bet you your bigger builds are the older cars.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we just finished another one in 2020. That's a pretty significant build, but you're not wrong. The ones that actually surprised me, I've had a couple of these now. 02 WRX. I know we're almost talking about something.
I love them. Bug eyes for life, baby.
Bug eyes are awesome, but know just as well as I do, 99% of bug eyes right now are complete heaps of crap.
Yes.
I mean, they're on their 7th, 8th owner or some shit like that. The last couple people have been kids that have just wrecked the shit out of the car. Got a couple here that have come through. One was super duper nice. It was like a goddamn time capsule. But another couple where they needed some work, and it was a younger kid that came in, and I'm like, oh god, I
here we go. Yeah,
here we go. And they have actually, charged us with making them nice again. And I'm like, I don't know where the hell this kid's coming up with this money and stuff right now, because this is a lot of work.
I think we're about to have a big market in aftermarket, just like in the hot rod community. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Like restoration type parts, like
restoration type pieces, seals, things like that. That Subaru is just like, you know what I mean?
Hey, look, good luck finding window trim for a GC.
It don't exist. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. Like somebody could make a killing for the coupe, the trim that goes around the rear windows on a coupe. Somebody would make a killing if they'd make that out of carbon. They'd make a killing.
Absolutely.
They'd make an absolute killing.
Even just a friggin' replacement part that you can put on there.
Exactly.
A replica replacement part. Because
they could charge OEM levels of money for it just because it exists.
More.
It is
like no joke. Yeah, it's like those.
We need a year one. We need a Subaru year one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But they've kind of reached the GCs certainly, and I mean the GCs that's a 30-year-old car now. I mean that's nutty as well too. But they've definitely reached that sort of like classic car status, and the Survivors that are nice. Hell, even the ones that aren't nice nowadays, but it's at least a two-door coupe. that car's worth money because someone's going to want to swap it and, you know, make it nice again and take advantage of that light chassis, even though it's a goddamn wet noodle. I mean, in comparison to a
awful
car.
Yeah, if you don't cage it, it sucks. That's why I keep telling people, go to the GD. Like, get a damn GD. It's going to be better.
The GCs, though, man, I mean, if you have a moderate street car, let's say you WRX or STI swap it here if we want to do it bar legal, so even a bone stock type of swap, those fuckers feel fast as hell on the street, man. I mean, they're not. You could be racing door handle to door handle with the guy in a VA, and the guy in the VA is yawning because it doesn't feel like nothing. You're in the GC, you're like, what? This feels like
we're having a riot. The thing I always loved about a GC, too, a swap GC, every hand-down part you would get from an STI is going to, like, you're going to mop the floor with STIs with it. Like, if it's WRX swapped, the WRX swapped GC will take out an STI. You know what I mean? Because it's so much lighter. And you're going to have a damn riot doing it. Like the engagement of driving that car, it's really enjoyable, and it's something that gets lost on a lot of modern cars today, you know?
Well, that's the thing. It's organic. It's mechanical feeling. And that's part of the appeal. We talk about, you know, guys who are maybe in their 40s, 50s that wanted to build this car when they were, you know, when they just got their driver's license, 16, 20, 25 or something like that. They didn't have the money for it. And now they can. Look at Bring a Trailer and the insanity that happens over there. Dudes that are trying to recapture their youth.
This is one of the reasons I really like the BRZ too. Is because it gives me the vibe of a late 90s, early 2000s car.
Yes, it does. It's the same size too. If you ever look at a GC parked next to a BRZ,
it's a little car. I mean, it's not a big car. I mean, I was just pulling a 23.
And it's simple.
I was pulling a 23 VB onto the dyno the other day, and you know, I've been, you know, obviously been in a few of them now, but to me, it feels like a friggin' like giant boat.
It's huge. It is huge,
oh my gosh! It shares a platform with the Outback.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, well, every Subaru shares the same platform now. Everything's on the global platform. You know,
it's massive.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's such a difference from, say, a GC. Where, you know, like I said, even up until like the VA STI, it was still what I would call somewhat of an anachronism and one of the last organic sports sedans because, hey, look, man, aside from the DCCD, there's really no electronic nannies. I mean, stability control is fully defeatable and that sort of thing. Hydraulic power steering, row it your own 6-speed manual, which again is a dying breed right there. So that's another car that I can definitely see, you know, a few going down the line. That will certainly be a car that's in demand because that shit doesn't exist anymore. It really doesn't.
I think you're going to get people who like the same people who would have looked at a Porsche back in the day and couldn't afford it and decided to buy an STI and play with it. That same person is going to look at an STI and go, man, I'd really like to mod a old Porsche, but I think I'm going to mod an old STI. And I think you're going to get, because I'm not saying it's the same experience, but like, is that exactly what you're saying? You're rowing your own gears, you know, proper hydraulic steering. So you got decent steering feel and you're gonna, I think that same type of customer is going to exist. I'm going to be interested in the future. I think we already kind of have that with like ProDrive's fancy model that they made, but are we going to start seeing Singer style Subarus? You know what I mean?
Hey, look, I mean, you go back not that long and, you know, we're in air-cooled Porsches with the nadir of their value. Actually, one of my buddy of mine who is a fabricator, does some of my cages and stuff for me. He has a friend who bought up a bunch of air-cooled Porsches when they were, you know, sub $10,000. He literally
they were so cheap. You can buy an air-cooled freaking 911 for 10 to 15, no problem. That's $100,000+ car now.
Yeah, the guy had like a dozen of them or plus.
Oh my god! Well, he can retire.
But at this point, I mean, Jesus, because it's you know, the market, you can't predict what the hell the next car is going to be that sees some kind of insane appreciation in value over the course of time because of nostalgia factors. And so that's where, you know, like, look, I mean, there's still plenty of shops as we talk about viability of business and what platforms to support. I mean, you know, we talked about hot rods earlier. I mean, like, dude, you're talking about people that are still working on cars that are 70 years old now. You know, I mean, not 60 years old, like 60-year-old cars. Yeah. And there's still a massive market for that. And as I said,
I mean, go to SEMA. Everything there is still for hot rods.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you just got to look at what's the next gen hot rod. What is the hot rod of our day and our generation? And so you look at a GD. I mean that's not a bad possibility right there. Like I said.
Yep.
And again, who knows what the future is going to hold here, but we talk about percentage of a niche market, and even as a whole, like when I look at, say, other shops in my general vicinity that do the same thing that I do, and customers will be like, "Oh, I've been here. What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "They do a fine job." He's like, "What? You don't want to talk shit about them?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to talk shit about them. I mean, in general, how there's some guys that I think I can do a better job than. Sure, I mean,
always, yeah,
that's always going to be the case, but." I'm not a hater. I'm not going to be one of those guys that wants to talk shit about every single one of my quote unquote competitors, because if every single person who was performance minded with a Subaru wanted to come here and have me work on the car, there's no effing way in hell I could accommodate everybody.
Well, not only that, like, this pie is still big enough for everybody to eat, and there still be leftovers. Okay.
Absolutely.
Like, we're all in this together. It's one of those things that, especially with Subarus, and especially in the competition side of things, you hear me talk about Subarus versus the world. It really is. And and like Subaru on Subaru violence, like there's really no place for it anymore. Because whoever's left, because the herd has thinned. Okay. And whoever's left for the most part is doing pretty damn good work. That's really like, they're probably not a moron. You know what I mean?
It's a battle of attrition at that point. There's definitely people that are going to come in and out of the marketplace. And, we've been here. Actually, it's funny. We've been here for so long, and it's crazy because time flies. I mean, I never thought that, now literally I'm 17 years deep in this thing now, and this is a second career for me. And the guys from Cobb came to visit one time, and they actually used the words legacy account to refer to my business. And I'm like, oh, okay, I am old. Thank you.
Ooh.
Like, zing. I'm like, thanks.
All right. All right, man, this has been fun. I kind of have one little mini game that I like to play, just because it's hilarious and good times. Especially when I'm talking to OGs, I like to do this. When was the last time, or when did you were around during the forums? Okay, okay. So I like to talk to the OGs to see who has the older member number.
Oh shit. Hold on, let me log into Nasiok right now.
All right, yeah, like if you got a computer in front of you, we're gonna play, and then we're gonna have Warranty guess.
All right.
Let's
Who has the older member number?
Yep. This is going to be good. I don't even remember what is your member number or your member name on Nasiok. I don't remember.
So I was SoCal LGT because I started off with the legacy. So I'm trying to remember what the hell my actual login is right now. That's what my actual password is.
That's how little people use Nasiok these days, and it's a shame because honestly,
I can just search here probably.
Yeah, you just look for a thread that you started. Like that's how I did it. I just looked for a thread that I knew I was prominent in.
Yeah, let me. For some reason, my service writer has an actual. And it's going to be a new one here, but
he's going to be uber noob.
Yeah, let's see here. God, I haven't been on. This is like I'm visiting the way back. I'm in the way back machine right now.
This is so good. I like to do this with the OGs just to see who's more OG.
Let's see here. What the hell's? Why can't I? Where the hell's the search thing here, man?
No, it's up on the top. There's going to be a bar next to new posts. This is one of the reasons that Nasiok, you don't see.
There it is.
So, meanwhile, I'm going to guess. I think that Paul's got the lower number because
you think
California.
Yep.
California runs a little bit ahead of the rest of the country.
He's also a little older than I am. Not much, but he's got a little age to me. And I think that's going to get him.
Age right now that I'm having trouble here. Although, let's see here. Let me log out and then just do a quick search here. I should be able to. Can I not search if I'm not logged in?
It might
Oh,
not.
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
I search by username. So, LGT.
This is gonna be good.
Dude, I can't get it. It says string you entered. For the image verification. Sorry. Let's see here. I had to prove I'm not a robot here. Hold on.
Are you not a robot?
I mean, I could be. Dude, they make this not exactly easy.
Well, this is why people don't use forums. Like it became so easy to use social media, and like, the amount of people I would send like a link from NASDAQ, like, hey man, read this. There's a lot of good info here. You'll learn a bunch. And they're like, I don't even know what to do with this. These kids are like, what is this?
The hours that we used to spend on NASDAQ, man. Holy cow.
My God.
God damn it. I can't fucking, literally the captcha image is so friggin' goofy that I can't even make it out. I must be a robot because I can't make this out.
Well, let's put it this way. Do you think you're lower than 37,000?
Possibly. This is bothering me now. Wait. Okay, I think this one's clear enough. I might be able to get this one.
Oh, okay. Ooh, I think D's got me beat. Mr. D. Alex Butler, the guy who runs Track Subies, is in here. And he's got me beat 34,361. I was one of those holdovers on iClub for a long time. I was on iClub.
Oh, you're an iClub guy. Okay.
Yeah, I was OG iClub before the split, and then stayed with iClub just because like I thought that was a cool thing to do. And then iClub turned into nothing but links to NASDAQ. And then then that's when I went over. So
I'm still trying here. This one, I think they might have given me one here that's easy enough.
All right.
Here now. Oh wait, is it? I wonder if it's. Hold on, I think it might actually be case sensitive here. E G F P lowercase b. Come on. Yes. Here we go. All right, so let's see here. So what is my member number here? Oh no, I'm not. I'm pretty fucking high, dude. I must have joined somewhere later along the way here. Yeah, I'm not good. I'm not good at all here, man. I'm 89,752.
Yeah, that's still under 100,000. It has gotten to the point where there are people who are considered very OG, and they're nearing a 200,000 member number. Like, holy shit, man! That's funny.
First post was on here. The thing is I was posting actually on legacygt.com. That's actually how one else.
If you're an LGT guy, you're probably super OG over there.
Yeah, I'm like one of the first ones over there. I literally haven't been on that forum in more than a decade. I mean, hell, I'm not sure if I've been on NASDAQ in more than a decade here, unless it was just casually to search something. But yeah, man, that is freaking hilarious. I always found that to be a good time talking to the old guys, because that used to be like this weird badge of honor that you know. And I'm talking like 2008. You'd be like, yeah, but your member number is like 200,000. What the hell are you even talking about? You know what I mean? Exactly.
It was for all those kids who came over with like Ken Block. You know, right in that time period, there was this huge explosion. I came over with a bug eye clout.
Yeah, it looks like I first started posting on NASDAQ, and I was never a big poster.
Yeah.
Back in 07.
Okay. And again, you were probably doing more LGT stuff, especially if you were selling LGT stuff.
Yeah, I did probably a couple years on LGT before even. And I think actually when I started working at the shop is when I started posting a little bit more and spending a little bit more time on NASDAQ.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah. At the time, you did. I mean, you know, you got a sponsor. You got to be a sponsor. You got to have that presence.
Absolutely. You had to be a sponsor on NASDAQ, and you had to monitor it because. Like somebody could say something at 12:30 at night, and it would be by the time you woke up in the morning, it would be on fire.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I'm not sure I missed that, but
I don't. And kind of the same thing happens now, but like social has gotten just strange. And the difference between NASDAQ and modern social media is a week later, everybody will forget in modern social media. On NASDAQ, it never went away. People pull up threads. You know, we're talking 10 years later that you like accidentally misspelled something and they'll lose their shit. It was just a different time. This was fun, man. I enjoyed talking to you. I definitely want to catch up with you some more. Maybe we'll do another meetup, down the road. I don't know if we're coming out to any Cali events this year or not. I'll have to check out. If we are, I'm definitely going to come out because I want to hang. It'd be cool to do dinner, hang out with you sometime.
We always do. For sure, absolutely. Love to grab a bite with you. I think you guys, you send somebody out to SubiFest typically, Southern California SubiFest.
Yep.
So yeah, if you make it out again this time, dude, let's down. Let's plan it.
Yeah, it'd be a good time. Sweet, man. This has been fun. If people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it? And I'm gonna say this for you. If you have to talk to somebody from the front end and not him specifically, you're still going to get great info.
Absolutely. Look, and here's the crazy thing. You're going to talk to a girl and she actually knows what she's talking about.
Oh, so, man, we got some of that too.
Front door.
Oh my God. What they do to crazy. Kathy here is unreal.
It's nuts though, because she's so obviously competent when people call on the phone that the kind of guarded thing that some of the bros think, oh, I can't take advice from a girl. Yeah. Stuff. Let me talk to Paul. So at the end of the day, when people question that, I'm like, look, that person would not work here if I did not have confidence in the messaging. And she's good enough that she's good in the sense of almost all of the stuff she's going to, spit back at you is going to be truth. But if there's any question or if there's further inquiries, then I'm always happy to help. But you guys can, anybody who's listening that wants to reach us, email is great, sales, SALES at yimisport.com. Don't bother visiting our website because we put absolutely no effort into it. I don't think I've touched that thing in a decade, so it's pretty worthless. But, you can find us on the socials. Yimi Sport is our handle on Instagram. You could always give us a call if you actually want to talk to somebody. That's 661-251-3966. So, yeah, hit us up. We're always happy to help. And thank you, Dewey, for the opportunity. Thank you for the conversation. I truly enjoyed it.
This was fun.
Too. Yeah, time just flew here, man. It zipped on by. So, yeah, had a good time.
It's the middle of the day for you, so I want to make sure you get back to it. So, again, this was fantastic. Thanks for carving out some time in your day for us and coming and hanging out with our silly little show here. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, you have a good one, bud.
Yep.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Take care.